And welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, and we're going to bring you a forum discussing the deeper issues and inequities that many people face. And we present, I should say, multiple points of view, promote civic engagement, and we have some very interesting guests. So we want you to stay tuned because we're going to have a great topic of conversation. The Social Justice Forums begins now. And welcome back. Our first guest has over 33 years of law enforcement experience, including 13 years as a New York State licensed private investigator. She's worked various patrol and operational assignments through her career and has spent her career addressing crime and quality of life issues through creative, collaborative, and community-based problem solving. We got a chance to sit down with the principal of Hard Facts Investigation and private investigator, Sonya Glover, to discuss more. Well, Sonya, thank you so much for being with us. And, just a little bit about yourself, because looking at your career, you've got a lot of years in law enforcement. And I guess the operative question is, what leads you to a career in law enforcement?
Wow. First and foremost, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I chose law enforcement early in life. I am an activist. I was an activist again at 14 years of age, and I seen a lot of police misconduct, police brutality, a lot of injustice in the legal system. So I used to go to various lectures and so forth at City College with Dr. Ben, and just becoming conscious and just wanting to help, wanting to make a difference. So I was told by my mentor that I have to be in it to get through it. And the best serve to the community is to get involved, get into the system, to know it, to learn it, to be able to help assist. So I had to learn the legal system to be able to be of assistance.
And when we talk about the legal system, the legal system has changed down through the years, but some tenets are still the same. There's still injustice. There's still issues to be able to deal with it. And there is this stigma that being involved in criminal justice or being a law enforcement officer, particularly for the Black and brown community, sometimes there's an aversion too, but you actually gravitated to
it. Yes, I really wanted to make a difference. I really wanted to help. And I know to do such, you have to roll up your sleeves, pull up your pants legs, tie up your boots, and get involved. I can't speak to something and help others if I don't know exactly how it's ran, how it works. So I want to know how it works, how I can be of service in this realm of the legal arena. So I went back to school. I have 2 degrees in criminal justice, and I joined the New York City Police Department. And I did 20 years with the New York City Police Department. And upon retiring, I started my own company, and I continue because there's so much work to be done. As you said, it's changing. It's an evolution. It keeps changing. So I wanted to still be involved to see how I can best help. And I started my company, Hard Facts Investigation, as a New York State licensed private investigator.
I caught you said graduate, then you try to say retire, but the truth is you actually did graduate because you started off as, a police officer. And yes, to go into your own law firm, to go into your own firm, have your own investigations business. Talk to me about the private investigation. Why did you want to go that route? Because again, there's a stigma there because the first thing people think about private investigators are snoops, right? But the reality is there's so much more to being a private investigator.
It is so much more. I wanted to continue my investigatorial skills. Sometimes things are not concluded. Things are not, how do I want to say this? Things are not concluded. Things are not put to rest properly. Sometimes as an officer, you have a time frame to get a case up and running and to find the bad guys or to get the evidence or whatever it is that you need is a time frame. So I figured as a private investigator, there are a lot of cases, cold cases, cases of people who have been wrongfully accused that have not been properly investigated and have been put aside on the shelf. Not that the detective, the officers did not do a thorough job, but sometimes there's a time restraint. So some of these cases, I felt intrigued. I felt more work needed to be done, and I would be able to do such as a private investigator. So that's what I do, and snooping is one of them.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
well,
it
listen,
gets the job done.
it's getting the job done, and sometimes I think that there's a negative stereotype that's associated, but the reality is, you've worked with the Innocence Project, and you've helped to see people be free, and that's not. That's a matter of snooping for the right reason, right? I mean, all snooping is not always
Absolutely.
good, but the truth is that's snooping for the right reason because we're able to see so many innocent people to be able to get to be set free. And sometimes it's the fact that you have a lawyer that may be doing a whole bunch of cases or your case isn't a priority, but that private investigator can sometimes be that difference in the case.
Oh, absolutely. I work with various attorneys, and they do, in fact, call my team in, because while they're doing the administrative work, while they are prepping and preparing for trial, they hire us. They send us out in the field to get the evidence, something that probably was missed. Where that they would send us out to see if there's other witnesses. If they spoke to a witness, maybe the witness may want to change his story, or the witness forgot to say something, or maybe they saw something and just forgot. So we're the extra ears and eyes to the attorneys. The attorneys are out there working hard. They're preparing. They're prepping to get the case on file, to get in. Fighting for a win. And we're a part of the team, and we're the ones that go out there and reenact a crime scene, or go out and look for surveillance cameras to see if something was missed. So we play a great part in getting the cases won inside of court.
Yeah. Talk to me about court for a minute. How do you view the criminal justice system as you see it from your side, as somebody that's worked on literally almost both sides, right?
Oh, absolutely. My opinion.
Hmm.
I find that sometimes the scale is unbalanced. Sometimes not sometimes, most times, uh, the black and brown people get a different sentencing, or different
Just
justice,
mhm.
as where say our counterparts may steal a car, and they'll get time served, 30 days probation, as where a brown and black person will get maybe 3 to 5 years. So it's not a balance. How
Right.
they dish out the sanctions are slightly heavy handed.
Yeah. Uh, Basically, there's a disproportionate amount of
Oh,
people.
very disappointing. Yes.
When you walk into the courtroom, I think that sometimes just walking into the courtroom itself, even though we make up a minority of the population, we make up a majority of the courtroom. How does that make you feel?
Um, it makes me feel uneasy. It reminds me as why I am there. It reminds me as my job is not done. There's so much more work to be done. So it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me sharp. It lets me know that I can't relax. I can't stop doing what I'm doing until we see that scene of the disproportion of the black and brown versus our counterparts. Until that is equally balanced, we have so much to do.
And for yourself, what does it feel like for you, the ability to have your own firm, to be able to, uh, serve people in a way that you want to serve and do the things that you want to do? Talk to me about that independent autonomy that you have just by being that owner.
Wow, it gives you the freedom to work the way you want to work. It gives you the freedom to be honest, your integrity. When you work with maybe with another firm, or you work with an organization as the NYPD, you have to go by certain guidelines, certain politics. When I work for myself, I come with honesty, my integrity. I owe no one anything, so I can give my all. But when you're working with someone, under someone, there are different restraints. With me, I am free to roam and do things in the guidelines, but at my pace, take out my time to commit to whatever the case would need without someone telling you right now, let's go, don't do this, don't do this. This is a friend of this one. I know that one. To me, everyone is the same. It doesn't matter who knows who belongs to who. We're here just to get the facts and treat everyone fair. So it's a difference. My hands is not tied. There's no restraint.
When we talk about the work that you do, give us behind the scenes about some of the work that your firm provides.
Oh, wow. Well, we do mostly we work with attorneys who are working with individuals who are wrongfully accused. We go behind the scene, we knock on doors, we visit people who are potential witnesses. We do surveillance. We may look for a witness that they say they couldn't find. We sit outside the homes. We may follow in our vehicle someone to watch them, to see their movements, to see if they are who they say they are, which is rewarding. Sometimes you have witnesses that may have gave a statement that was not true. They were coerced. And for many years, it bothered their spirit that they had told this story that was not true. And someone is in jail, incarcerated for this. And we knock on the door and we ask to speak with them. And they was like, I was glad you guys came. I can finally tell my truth. And just to sit with them and have them release the guilt of the lie that they had told, and the reason why. It's rewarding. It's rewarding because that witness gets to release and redeem itself, and it also helps the person that's incarcerated get to where they need to go, which is freedom.
As an investigator cracking that first case that you're actually able to help somebody be free, talk to me about that feeling of helping someone to actually become free who's been incarcerated.
Well, the most case that I'm most proud of, I believe it was 2018, maybe 2020.
Mhm.
A young man was incarcerated for 25 years for the murder of an elderly woman. He was accused of robbing and murdering her by killing her with a pair of scissors. He was a postal worker. He was a family man. He fell short. He started engaging in narcotics, and he was accused, wrongfully accused of this murder. My team and I went back in the field. We found the witnesses. We reenacted the crime scene. We took photos. We just went all out. The Innocent Project joined in. The attorney that hired us, those guys did an amazing work. They put all the paperwork together. They went to Melinda Cass in Queens County District Attorney. This young man was free, exonerated a few days before Thanksgiving. And I got the phone call that this was going on, that they had his case on deck, and it would be imperative for me to come in and see this. And it was the first time ever that I sat in on such a case. And when the judge, they asked him to stand, and the judge told him that he was a free man, I cried. Tears just welled up, and I was crying. And as Melinda and he embraced, he turned around, and I walked up to him, and he said, "Thank you." And we embraced. It was just a feeling like no other. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah. Does it give you fuel for the fire to continue the work?
Oh, I was excited. I was excited. I was ready to go right in that day. What's next, you know? But that encourages me. That lets me know that there is a God and there is justice, and with hard work and integrity, we can make this work. So yes, it gives you hope.
As I said, recruiting sometimes to see people in law enforcement and to work in the field of criminal justice it's very hard sometimes to really, because of the betrayal of the system and the biases and the stereotypes. And we know that there is the unfair and unjust treatment. What do you say to someone who is considering possibly a career in criminal justice and doing some of the work that you do?
I say go for it. I say it's rewarding. It's hard work. It can be taxing at times, but I say stay steadfast, stay encouraged. You're going to get people who tell you you can't, or you're doing something wrong, or you'll have the masses come after you and you'll become ostracized. But stay true to yourself and believe in yourself and that you can make a difference, and you will. I say go for it, and you're going to have a lot of naysays tell you that you're doing it wrong or you shouldn't do this, and they try to invoke fear in you to intimidate you, but you really have to be a strong person to be able to do something in this line of work.
Yeah. And so when people want to get connected, how do they go about getting connected to you, the investigative firm, and if they may have some services that they may need?
Well, you can email me at onlythefacts, ONLYTHEFACTS NYC@gmail.com. Only the facts. I can also be reached at 516-597-0727. You can call, you can email, or just stop in and visit. We're at 114-14 Supton Boulevard in Jamaica, Queens. Our lines are always open.
Sonya, it's been a pleasure meeting you and talking to you and the work that's going on. Very much needed it for a time such as this. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All righty. And we have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back right after this.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You even turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, backpack kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Hey, boss. Okay?
I said I'm fine.
Put me to bed, see you in the morning. With the frosted Superman, but it wasn't on it. And we lost it.
You can talk to me.
It's been really, really hard for me.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about poor Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
STEM is everywhere. Like here,
behind the scenes of The Walking Dead.
When we break down clothes, we tumble it with trisodium phosphate, rock salt, and dish detergent.
We stitched together images of our model and created a 3D set that can be walked through in a VR headset.
We're able to turn 12 walkers into 1,000 walker boards.
STEM can create new worlds on and off the screen. What will you make with STEM? Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
And welcome back. The organization Minority Millennials has been committed to bridging the gap between policy culture and helping hundreds of Black, brown youth access jobs, build wealth, as well as become civically engaged. Now, they aim to become the nation's leading resource for emerging generations of color as they seek equity in social, political, and economic developments. We've got joining us the founder and president of Minority Millennials, Lloyd. And Dan, good to have you with us. And when you talk about bridging the gap, I mean, it's definitely something that's necessary, needed. When we look at young millennials of color, for many, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, part of our mission and why we started this was really to kind of better define and clarify what civic engagement means, what policy means, and really how we like to kind of storytell it is talk about it in reference to power, how power works, and how that a lot of young people in general say that they're not interested or they don't care about politics. But quite frankly, if you ask them, how would you feel if someone took something from you or made you do something that you did not want to do? Would that impact your life or your family and community? And a lot of times when you're not involved in the political process, you are actually being forced to do something that you don't want to do. So that's how we kind of streamline and storytell why it's very important to be civically engaged.
And so for yourself, obviously you're the president and founder, and you found this with a purpose and a mission. And give us a little bit more of the background into the mission, because when you look at the millennial population, it's a population that really is at the cusp of, doing some great things, and you're really catching people at a great time of life, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, we're unique. I'm 36, so I'm a little bit of an older millennial. Millennials are getting older. Millennials are now 41. So to give some context, if you're 26 to 41 years old, you're a millennial. And if you're 12 to 23, you're considered a Gen Z. So we actually kind of now cater to millennials and Gen Z. But if you're like me, born in the late 80s, you kind of have a little bit of that old school education where it was before the iPhone, but then you also were blessed with technology. And the next generation, Gen Z, was really kind of born in that iPhone era since 2007. So we have the unique ability, more than any other generation in human history, to connect with people from all backgrounds and from all races and really from across the globe, and at the same time have the most access to information. So we're really trying to empower Black and brown millennials and Gen Z. We can give them a lot more information than they've had in the past. On the flip side, it's also extremely hard for our generation to focus. And so we have to make sure that when we're talking about these issues, they're very clear and they're presented in a way that our demographic can easily understand and then take it and make action with it. So that's a huge component to making sure that there's success with engaging millennials.
And when you tell me about millennials, you talk about the work that they got going on in the community and how they're trying to really transcend and make it, and make an impact here in the United States and America and beyond. You think about the fact that this is a very powerful group. It's a very powerful generation. When you talk about the contributions and the things that are going on in the lives of millennials right now, I mean, these are the people that you see sometimes presidents, CEOs of companies, really influencers. You're looking at the generation of people who really are making a lot of decisions for the way that we're going as a country right now, too. When you look at politics, you see mostly millennials that are out there in government office. So I want to just have a moment, because when we talk about this culture, and having millennials actually take their rightful place in the culture, I know that that's a part of what you're doing, right? Is assisting them to say, listen, you have a place in the culture, but not just having a place, having a voice, and securing that voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And millennials and Gen Z, quite frankly, combined are now the largest workforce demographic in the nation. We are also now the largest voting base in the nation. So when you combine political involvement and potential workforce capital, we have a lot of leverage. And so it's really just educating our demographic and our generation on how to utilize that leverage. Are we going to do it for the better good, as our parents and grandparents advocated for? Are we going to make sure that there's intergenerational wisdom being passed down? We don't need to recreate the wheel. We can utilize technology to make sure that we're advancing our racial equity causes, so that for the sake of time, things are actually getting done and there's proof of progress being made. And also that we are really defining what culture means. So we like to bridge that gap when we say that we're talking about our influence and the need for equity in entertainment, our influence and the need for equity in entrepreneurship. And are we really becoming owners and having ownership in industries that we've made global? When you talk about entertainment and hip hop, it's the #1 music genre in the world. So is now millennials, are we making sure that they're the CEOs and owners of these record labels and the new ones that are coming up? And the same thing when it comes to companies. Are we the CEOs and the ones that are making decisions as to who sits at the table of the board? We recently just saw that with Kanye and Adidas, and I'm hoping that there were some equity conversations in that transaction.
Yeah, when we talk about, we could go a whole show on Kanye right there. I mean, that's a show all by itself. But one of the things that we can does not, that can be said is that the Kanye deal and the Kanye coming back, it's all based on money. Let's just keep it for what it is. It's all based on money. And one thing that you do, I know that the work goes on, because it's about wealth, right? Because I think when you talk about millennials, these are people who are trying to make money, making decent money, and some doing pretty good. When you talk about New York City, it's not hard sometimes to get a six-figure income, because it almost requires 6 figures just to live here. But having 6 figures means nothing if you can't acquire wealth. And so talk to me about your building wealth strategy, and what are you doing with minority millennials to really educate them in this area?
Yeah, when we talk about income, as you mentioned, like, income is great for maintaining and getting by, but wealth is something that really gives you the convenience of a quality of life. Building wealth gives you the freedom to really pursue your dreams rather than just working, regardless if you're making 6 figures. So as an organization on Long Island specifically, we've been doing a lot of work when it comes to procurement and making sure that not only are our businesses in our network, in our community, certified to work on a lot of the construction and the industries that are coming to this region, like offshore wind, cannabis. We just partnered with Sands New York. They're a multi-billion-dollar resort company, and they literally partnered with us, a small nonprofit, to do pipeline development with diverse talent and NWBEs. We have a procurement academy tonight, actually, March 1st. So when we talk about generational wealth, are our millennial-led companies getting multi-figure contracts to do steel pipeline? Are they getting contracts to do construction and trade? Are they getting contracts to do the engineering of these projects on Long Island? And that's really where you build generational wealth, because if you look at historically, these are contracts that go through each generation of a family. They've been going on for 50, 60, 80 to 100 years. And we want to position our companies and our demographic to now be able to take a chunk of that equity in these industries. And then lastly, we'll talk quickly about financial literacy. As you know, Earn Your Leisure and a lot of these new platforms have been doing very well, explaining how to leverage the stock market and also how to build wealth through home ownership and property ownership.
Yeah, you talked about Earn Your Leisure. I know everybody's not so familiar, but these are some guys that are really doing a great job of educating when it comes to wealth and wealth building and how to really navigate financially. When you talk about millennials, I know a lot of people who are actually linked to Earn Your Leisure, and they seem to be doing a great job in learning and becoming more educated. I want to get your take on this. You know, you're recognized as one of the city and state's top 40 under 40. What's it like for you being able to have this honor?
Oh, it's a blessing. You know, I've been blessed. I would say I've been privileged to come from a family that was really trying to educate me on a lot of these things. It just took me 30 years to figure it out. So when I did, I was able to really kind of evolve and align with what my father and my mother were trying to instill into me. And also, I've been blessed with a huge mentor network, and I have a great colleague network. So really just being able to inject our mission as an organization into a region that is hungry. And honestly, though, after the summer of 2020, there was a lot of commitments to racial equity from major banking institutions to law enforcement. And as a demographic, we have to make sure that they're accountable to those things. And I make sure personally and professionally that we are accountable to those commitments and benefiting from those commitments, quite frankly. So it's been a blessing. It's been a journey. It's not easy as a social entrepreneur. That's what I like to define myself as. But it's been exciting if you can really merge the culture and the policy component and do it well. There's a lot of exciting things, and I'm sure we'll talk about the summit we have coming up, because Earn Your Leisure is actually guest speakers at a summit.
Yeah, I want to talk about the summit, and I'll give you a chance to talk about it. But let me start with this question, then we'll come back and talk about that. Economic development is so huge, right? And so many times people who are of brown descent are left out of that conversation and not even getting a seat at the table, but forget the seat at the table, just being excluded, period. Talk to me about what you want, what your goal is, how you're dealing with economic development and how you see things, and then we can talk about the conference.
Yeah, economic development is completely tied together with generational wealth. Because when you talk about economic development on a policy level, it's really understanding when someone like Governor Hochul makes an announcement on RFA. It could be an RFA, a request for proposal on a major project, but then you need 3 years of business credit or business experience to even submit for that proposal. So economic development is really educating our community about, if you do not have that and you're not certified to do business in the state of New York, then you need to network and partner with somebody that is and is looking to possibly have a subcontractor. And that's where we come in and help nurture and develop the businesses to make sure that they're a part of that economic opportunity. But also just tapping into resources that a lot of people just don't have the capacity or the bandwidth, because they're working day to day, to really step outside of their mental box for 15 and 20 minutes and take a look and see how can this benefit their entrepreneurial dreams, or even if they have an existing property. So economic development is completely tied into policy. Is really just helping to educate the person or the individual on what that looks like. And we like to focus on capital and business contracts on the state. So I serve on the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council. So I've been privileged to have access to a lot of developments that are coming down to this region. And then I can then share that with our community and our demographic. And also, more importantly, make sure they're prepared to take advantage of these RFPs before they come out.
Hey, while we're talking, let's get right to the conference and the summit. We want to get into that.
Yeah, we are the future. You know, that's the name of the summit. It's called We Are the Future. But quite frankly, as you already mentioned, millennials, we are now. We are literally at the helms of leadership. We have the ability to make decisions that our parents and grandparents were not able to make. So we have a lot of responsibility, and that's what this conference is focused on. We're partnering with city and state, actually, to provide a conference that bridges the gap between policy and culture. We have Senator Jamal Bailey, who I know is from the Bronx, as well as Councilman Kevin Riley, Councilwoman Natasha Williams, Senator Jessica Ramos. We have New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. We have Senator Kevin Thomas, Assemblywoman Taylor Darling. So we really, really wanted to get some of our Black and brown leadership on the state, city, and local level and connect them with our high school students, connect them with the young professionals across the region. And each panel was going to talk about the future of power, quite frankly, the future of workforce, the future of economic development. And then we also have that live chat with Earn Your Leisure that we're going to really be able to talk and sit with them and talk about their journey and where they see our industry and our culture going when it comes to economic development. We do have a meet and greet with them. It's going to be a career fair as well. So we have a lot of offshore wind developers, a lot of cannabis-focused industries, a lot of advanced manufacturing industries that are going to be on hand, actively recruiting at the summit. So we are the future, April 27th, live at David S. Mack Complex and Arena at Hofstra University.
Got to be pretty exciting for you. And I know a labor of love, but at the same time, also a lot goes into putting something like this together.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm not bald for no reason, and I'm trying to make sure that I stay a little bit looks like I'm in my 30s. But I've been blessed to have a great team. We have an incredible team. City and State is a great partner. Shout out to Lisa and the entire staff. So, we're excited. We had a call today. It's coming together well. So we're blessed. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to just get your take on this here, right? Millennials are sometimes misunderstood. Sometimes people don't understand who they are, what they're about. Yeah. What's the biggest misconception that you can break down real time for us when it comes to our millennial culture?
I would say one is that we're highly educated. Our demographic was coached to go to higher education. And I'm speaking specifically about Black and brown millennials. We went to HBCUs. We got our bachelor's degrees. We have our master's degrees. Some even have our PhDs. So we're extremely, extremely educated. We're also very much purpose-driven. So not only are we getting the educational necessary requirements to do what we want to do, but we also are following our passions, our purpose. So we're not just doing this to make money, we're doing this to have an impact. So social purpose is big for our demographic. We're not lazy. And quite frankly, we make more money than our parents and grandparents. It's just that the cost of living and inflation has made the quality of life that the American dream is supposed to provide a lot harder to attain. But we're putting a lot of responsibility on our backs. We're creating this economy. We're also educating and mentoring the Gen Z population. So we're in a unique situation to blend the traditional American society with the advanced technology American society that we're going into.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for being with us, and I mean, best wishes with all that goes on for the conference and the summit. We know it's going to be an awesome time, but I want to thank you for taking the time to spend with us because I think it's really important that we understand and try to break down some of these real-time issues that millennials and particularly millennials of Black and brown descent are dealing with. But you're doing a great job of bridging the gap, doing a great job of really providing an outlet where people can go. And if not, you wouldn't be recognized the way that you're recognized. But thank you so much for what you do, man. And hopefully we'll get you back soon and we can talk more about this.
Love it. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform. I really appreciate that. And hopefully you could attend the summit. We got to follow up. It'll be good.
Hey, man, love to. So get me in and I'm there. If you if I get a seat, I'll get in.
All right, copy. Got you.
All right, then. Dear Lord, our guest.
Right.
Listen, got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Coming up after this.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad. Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper. I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
Analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I am more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do,
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
And welcome back. The Fortune Society is nationally recognized for developing model programs, helping people with criminal justice histories to be assets to their communities. Now, the Fortune Society, David Rothenberg Center for Public Policy, recently unveiled the organization's 2023 legislative priorities, calling on city and state lawmakers to remove discriminatory barriers for people with criminal justice involvement, as well as expanding access to legal services and protections for people with conviction histories and improving conditions inside jails as well as prisons. Join me now. We've got the Deputy Chief Executive Officer at the Fortune Society, Stanley Richards. And thank you, Stanley, for coming to share with us. And you told us a little off camera that you are just coming off the loss of your father-in-law. And we certainly want to thank you publicly for taking the time to share with us in the midst of grief and pain. Certainly thank you for being with us, and our condolences to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the condolences. You know, I think about the blessings of life, and my father-in-law was one of those blessings for my wife and myself. So I'm glad to be here to continue this conversation around criminal justice reform and what we can do as a city and a state and a nation to really reduce the collateral consequences of a conviction and disproportionately impacting so many Black and brown people throughout the United States. We can and must do better. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, you know, let's dive right into it because we can do better. And I think when we talk about restorative justice, it doesn't always go well, particularly for those in communities of color. You've been at the forefront of really a lot of policy and lobbying to make sure that things can get better. When we look at the state of reform and how we deal with the criminal justice system and also our jails, I mean, what do you see give us your assessment for how you see things citywide?
I think for me, it's sort of a two-pronged approach and view. One, taking a step back and really looking at how much progress we have made over the years. And I think that continues to feed the fuel of our passion and hope that we can have a better society when we create conditions both for those who are incarcerated and conditions in our communities where our communities are safe and they're not disproportionately impacted by mass incarceration. And so when you look over the decades in New York State, particularly, we have done significant work in reducing our footprint in incarceration. In New York City jails, we went from, at our peak, 22,000 people incarcerated in our New York City jails. We're down now to 5,900. We've gotten much lower. We're starting to tick our way back up, which is troubling for us. And in New York State, we was at 72,000 people, and we're around 33,000 right now. And so we've seen significant reductions in our footprint, and that gives great motivation and hope that we can do better. And what Fortune Society has been talking about, what we're advocating for in some of the policies, is now that we have begun to shrunk our footprint on mass incarceration, and at the same time seeing safe communities. We're seeing an uptick in crime over the last year or so, but overall we have seen a significant reduction in our crime, as we've seen a reduction in our mass incarceration. So we know we can have fewer people incarcerated and we can have safe communities. And so now we've turned our attention to the policies surrounding the collateral consequences of a conviction.
And for yourself, I mean, we talk around this, the city a lot about what's going on, and it looks like crime is going up in certain areas, and we know we have our challenges right here in the borough of the Bronx. But when you do look at it on an overall perspective, crime is going down, right? And you have incarcerations that are going down, and some things are working. So when we can talk about what's working, what can we put our hand on to say, hey, this is really something we should be paying attention to?
Well, we know it, right? We know that providing economic opportunities for people impacted by mass incarceration is a vehicle for helping people to rebuild their lives, re-engage with their communities, and support their communities. We know providing higher education in jails and in prison, and providing access to higher education when people come home, is a pathway for people to build brighter futures. We know that when we provide stable, supportive housing for people who are impacted by incarceration, we know we provide them an opportunity to reunite with family, integrate into the communities, and have a safe place to live. There are sort of the pillars of what it takes to help people rebuild their lives post-incarceration, and how do we develop enough supportive off ramps so that we don't have to have so many people incarcerated. And that's one of the things Fortune Society does. We have multiple programs. We have alternatives to incarceration. We have reentry supportive housing. We have education and employment. We have licensed substance abuse treatment and mental health treatment, giving people the kind of tools and resources they need to rebuild their lives. What we have lacked, I think, in the city, in the state, and in this country is a commitment to see those kinds of services through in a very robust way. What we try to do, and what we tend to do, is to look at the problem and invest a nickel in the problem and expect the problem to be addressed. And the same way we've invested billions of dollars in this country to build prisons and jails, we need to likewise invest significant resources in reentry housing, in substance abuse and mental health treatment, in employment opportunities, and in housing.
Yeah. Talk to me about housing, because when I think about incarcerated individuals, what the goal is really for them to be able to not get into this area called recidivism. And we know that recidivism is something that is happening, and we want to try to curb that. But many times when you talk to a lot of those who've been incarcerated, they'll tell you that recidivism occurs when I can't get the opportunity to change where I live, my environment. And so that housing is so critical, right? And so can you give us a little insight into some of the barriers? Because when I think about those who are incarcerated, yeah, if I'm trying to get an apartment, if I'm trying to get a house, here it is. I'm trying to get it, but then I got to fill out this form, and that background check can be the biggest problem for me being able to land safely.
That's right, and that's true in housing and in employment. We see people with convictions discriminated against just because they have the conviction. there is this sense that if you have a conviction that you're going to be a troubled tenant, that you're not going to make a good employee, that somehow that incident in your life determines who you are as a person, as a tenant, or as an employee. And so we have been advocating for the fair chance for housing legislation that basically prohibits landlords from discriminating against people based solely on their conviction. And we've built it in such a way that landlords can still follow the law in terms of their ability to view if someone has a sex offense, but that for someone with a conviction, overall, they can't use that conviction to discriminate against someone. And that opens up existing housing opportunities for people with convictions who have a job, who want to find, need a place to live, and is looking for that particular place to live, but can't get access to it because when they fill out the application, the landlord does the background check. They see 10 years ago they was convicted of a burglary or a robbery or an assault. And then that becomes who they are when they have long paid their price, paid their dues, and now they have reintegrated and they're looking for an opportunity to start a new life.
Talking about Clean Slate New York, and that goes in line with what we're talking about. So make us aware.
Absolutely. Clean slate is something I think we absolutely need to do. Clean slate provides an opportunity for people who have been convicted and they serve their time and they're no longer on parole to have their record automatically sealed. And it provides people like me who have a conviction can get their record automatically sealed after a certain period of time. You're off parole, you have no new arrests, no new convictions, that it would automatically be sealed from the general public. And there are some exclusions, right? Like law enforcement, the courts, and those systems will still have access to the record, but it just gets automatically sealed. And then it's 1 year for a misdemeanor, it's 3 years for a felony, and then there's an automatic expungement after 5 years for a misdemeanor, 7 years for a felony, that provides further protections. And it makes sense. I'll give you an example for me. I was released in 1991. I haven't had an arrest or conviction since then. I've been the first deputy commissioner of the New York City Department of Corrections. I've been appointed to numerous boards from city government and New York City Board of Corrections. I'm the deputy CEO of Fortune Society. My record is still available. If I apply for an apartment, if I apply for a job, an employer could do a background check and we'll see. My conviction happened in 1980. My last conviction happened in 1986. I got released in 1991, but that's still available. And when is enough enough? I have demonstrated my rehabilitation. I have demonstrated my commitment to being an asset to my community and to my city and to my state. That should I still be viewed as the person who was convicted in 1986 and served my time, successfully completed probation, and was the second highest ranking correction official in one of the country's largest jails? There comes a time where we just have to say, people have paid their dues and they deserve a second chance. And the clean slate does that automatically.
Yeah. I want to talk something that's near and dear to a lot of us around here, and that's close Rikers Island. We know Rikers has been a challenge for so many years. The cries have gone out for so many years, and it seems as though we're a little bit closer than we've ever been before to the Close Rikers Island movement. For somebody with boots on the ground, give us where we are today and what we can expect.
Well, we are still pushing for the closure of Rikers Island. The mayor said, it's the law. Rikers needs to close by 2027. But we're not seeing all of the indicators moving in the right way. One being the population. We're seeing the population go up. As I said, it was It's roughly around 5,900 right now. We need to get that population down to 3,300, 3,500 in order to um, be able to close Rikers and move people to the borough-based jail system. Here's a simple fact about Rikers. Rikers is a place that is a stain on this city. It hurts those who are incarcerated there. It hurts the officers who work there and the civilians who work there. It hurts the families who have to come there. And it is time for us to close that. I firmly believe that we can have a smaller footprint where only those who are absolutely necessary for us to keep our community safe to need to get their cases adjudicated, and we can do that with a much smaller footprint. That the facilities we have could be centered on the humanity of everybody who's in there, those who are detained there, those who work there, and those who have to visit. And right now, we don't have that. We have a system that just permeates hurt, dysfunction, isolation, confusion, hopelessness, and it does massive damage to all.
Yeah.
There are no winners with our current Rikers Island system. There are no winners.
Yeah, it's quite infuriating to a lot of people. We will continue to follow that story as it develops here at our station as well. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I do want to get an opportunity to let you share how people can partner in some of the great work that you're doing in raising awareness and advocacy.
Thank you. They can come and join us. They can come see our work. Visit our website, www.fortunesociety.org. Look at our policy work. We are often pulling together community organizing events. We are willing to come to churches and communities to share what we're doing on a policy level. We want people to join with us because we want to lead with the love of what we see in front of us. One of our sayings at Fortune is, we don't see you for what you did or how much time you served. We see you for who you are when you walk through our doors. And our job is to hold who you can be until you begin to see it for yourself, you begin to believe it, and you begin to live it. And so we invite communities to come join us in centering our work on that kind of humanity. We believe that we can have a much better society and communities and system when we work together to build a system that holds people accountable, is centered on humanity, and has procedural fairness and procedural justice.
Well, Stanley, we want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing a lot of information. The Fortune Society does some great work, and glad to get you here on the show, and thank you again for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All righty. Stanley Richards, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Fortune Society, our guest, and we want to thank him for being with us. We have come to the end of the show today. Hope you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Bronx Social Justice Forums. We want you to rewatch this edition, and you can catch the recablecast right here on BronxNet TV or BronxNet.org. Now, if you want to join in the conversation and present your point of view, you can do that by visiting our social media pages at BronxNet TV. And we tell you, join us next week as we continue to elevate the discussion and bring further awareness to the issues that matter the most across the globe. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care. God bless.